Hey there, this is Randy Cross, and welcome to the Randy Cross Podcast, Season 6, Episode 1. Pretty good rundown for you today. We're going to start off with a little commentary after I talk to you here, and then we're going to have an interview with CBS Sports' Adam Zucker, who anchors everything college football and college basketball for CBS Sports. We're going to move after that into Randy Eats, which is going to be a little fun. It's not real high-tech or real crazy. We are going to have social media, and we've got a new happy trail for you this week. So check that one out and enjoy it. We'll ask you on all our social media platforms, especially YouTube, please like the episode, please subscribe to the episode, and please forward and or copy it or send it out to as many people as you'd like to. Okay? Really appreciate that. So now I just got a few thoughts. I want to start this off with a little commentary. Pretty important news this week, kind of a coach-on-coach crime. Everyone went crazy when Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher kind of traded bombs going at each other. You know, Nick was saying that A&M had the number one team in recruiting, but they paid all their players, and Jimbo started going through God complexes and other things and other past issues from his time on Nick's staff at LSU, I guess. I don't know. So everybody was talking about that. That same day, that same morning, Jordan Addison, the All-American wide receiver for Pitt, announced that he was, by the transfer portal, going to be transferring to USC. What was SC getting? SC was getting, last 2 years, Addison had 160 receptions, he had over 2,250 yards, and he had 21 touchdowns receiving. So Caleb Williams, the Oklahoma transfer that went with Riley Skinner to USC, is going to be throwing to one heck of a wide receiver. It's crazy. And for some reason, it kind of got buried. I guess it was because two of the titans of coaching kind of taking shots at each other. But it's very, very typical. And I'll tell you why I kind of lead off and bring this up. I talk to a lot of people, obviously, connected with college football. And you hear some stories that'll curl your hair about stuff going on. You know, there's one story that came out about a month ago of a 2023 recruit that is agreed to what will be about an $8 million NIL deal. It's starting off with about $350,000 in cash. The yearly cash increments go up when he actually signs a letter of intent. But there's nothing in this agreement that says he has to sign a letter of intent with this school. It's sort of a, I'll trust you if you trust me, wink, wink, nod, nod. And that's just one example. And all the high-profile guys that have transferred, they've all done it for money. It hadn't been because they want to be in Hollywood and be in the movies. Or because they want to go to Texas because they like the politics. Or they want to go to Florida because Ron DeSantis is a kick and gov. No, it's because of the money, period. And there's no rules. There's no rules on the players as far as that goes. There's no rules on the transfer. And that's got to change. I mean, that has got to change like now. I've got an idea. I've said this a few times. Now, the conferences and their commissioners, they basically kind of control football. Kind of, I say, because when you think about the real big money in football, that's in the playoff system. And that's controlled by the National Football Foundation. And there's no reason to think that organization shouldn't be who runs college football. That's where your commissioner should come from. Maybe your other commissioners for the conferences get on a board with that guy. But that's the group that should control college football. And we need a governing body in college football yesterday. Not today, yesterday. It's got to happen. There's no two ways around it. And it's going to eventually. But more and more of this stuff's going to happen. I mean, I've talked to a couple people of late that have told me of agents that are hiring marketing teams that are starting to go into high schools as young as 10th grade to start signing players to commit to schools and start talking numbers for NILs to 10th graders. So we've gone from it's not unusual for a 9th or 10th grader to actually commit to a school to pretty quick order, not uncommon for 9th and 10th graders to be paid by schools or their alumni or their trusts or whoever the hell's paying them. But we need help. Remember the old TV commercial? They had the little old lady and she's walking through her house and she had her medical alert thing around her neck. And it always started off with her on the ground hitting the button and saying, "Help, I've fallen and I can't get up." Well, college football is flush with cash. But college football has fallen and they can't get up. And we got to figure out a way to get their ass off the ground. And the number one way is give them some bumpers, give them some rules, give them some people in charge. All right? Let's start off right now. We'll go to the interview and we'll talk a little bit about that with Adam Zucker of CBS Sports. All right, so as promised, I'm joined now by Adam Zucker of CBS Sports. He hosts everything college football related at CBS Sports, as well as college basketball related when it comes to the tournament, and God knows there's a heck of a lot of that stuff going on. And this is kind of his quiet time. And you know, as a father of two, there's not that much quiet time. And we'll talk maybe a little bit besides college football about his burgeoning disc golf career. Adam, welcome and thanks.
Randy, great to be back with you and see a familiar face. And what you said is accurately, yeah, my quiet time. So there was a shaving involved for this, no doubt.
Yes. Oh yeah. Same here, actually. I had about a 6-day thing working, and First thing my wife said this morning.
Have you seen our friend BJ, by the way?
Yes. Yes. He looks like the younger or the older brother of the guy on ESPN, the caddy.
Oh, that's good.
On their dust coverage.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, no, BJ had it going big time. Wait, what did your wife say? What was her reaction?
Oh, she goes, "You're not doing your podcast with that." I said, "Well, I did it with my goatee." She goes, "Don't remind me."
You know, Randy, I think the first thing after the pandemic hit and we were doing stuff from home, we did a show called Connected, and I was interviewing multiple coaches at once, and there was the old Zoom bomb involved, and I had Will Muschamp and Kirby Smart on simultaneously when Will was still at South Carolina, and I did it with my old college goatee look, which was now salt and pepper, and that lasted one episode. So yeah, there's there's a time where you got to just shave it.
Yep. Well, there are times to be loose and free, and times to actually have a job.
Act like you're on the Yankees.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, how do you like Judge this year, by the way? Talk about good timing, huh? He might be making himself a little money.
Yeah, it's good timing. It's very good timing for him, for sure. Yeah. And of course, for the Yankees, I was watching last night. He had another 2-home run game, but they lost. And it's great to watch because he had struggled at times, and really injuries were the thing that got him. So I hope beyond all things that he just stays healthy for his sake. You know, it's one of the old events that we used to do for fun in the off season was the home run derby, the college home run derby. And yeah. I'll never forget going to Omaha, and Tracy Wolfson was our sideline reporter, and my analyst was Frank Thomas. There was another one where we had Andre Dawson and Mike Schmidt joining us down on the field for some of this stuff. But the last one we did, a tall guy from Fresno State named Aaron Judge was the guy who won it. And I was sitting there like, how is this guy like, why is this? We kill kids for leaving school, right? And I'm sitting here thinking, why is this guy in college? But, sure enough, now look. So, yeah, you're right. Every penny. Not my money. Money in college kind of leads us back into college football.
Oh, yeah. What'd you think about the Mount Rushmore smack off we had last week?
Oh, well, if sculptures could talk, right? And they did. I'm looking forward to the mandatory like 50-yard line meetup on October 8th during SEC ball, assuming that we're going to show that one, especially at this point. You know what, Randy? I wish we had a show to do on the heels of all that. I kind of felt like that was one of those cases where Coach Saban didn't use the right verbs and was trying to get his boosters to, step it up, especially in this new age of what we've entered into. And then Jimbo either heard it directly or indirectly and went like, finger on the button over it and said things that could have, so far, no, but could have irreparable harm or, is the kind of stuff that would result in banners coming down if someone actually wanted to start uncovering things. So what was that all about? And clearly this was a relationship thing as well, right? So from his time working for Coach Saban or having to kowtow all these years maybe, and being the first former assistant to finally beat him on the field. And now Coach Saban's going to say this, but he just flat out went after him with insults and accusations that were far beyond what Coach Saban said, to the point where when Coach Saban then issued a statement, I was surprised that it was an apology and not, meet me in Morgantown for two native West Virginians to settle it. But it was, it was pretty surprising. And I think if Coach Saban had just said, A&M got all these guys and not bought all these guys, because he's talking about the NIL deals. He even followed it up and said with these name, image, likeness agreements. But then what Coach Fisher's talking about is when we actually did have rules. And so what is he talking about? And is anyone going to care or start shuffling through data and phone records and all the other stuff?
Yeah. I don't know. I may be giving Nick too much credit, but I've always kind of thought he rarely just kind of fires for effect. He rarely gets in those positions where he says stuff that he doesn't know exactly what he's saying. And maybe part of it is we all tend, the more success somebody has, we kind of treat them like Yoda. It's like, oh, smart they are. But, I looked at the whole thing as there's so much frustration. And it came out, obviously, with Jimbo. And I think a little bit with Nick, especially when he apologized later. But I think if you went across 130 major college teams, you'd be hard-pressed to find more than a handful of coaches that aren't legitimately terrified at what this is turning into until somebody gets in charge. And I was just before this interview, I did a little commentary section for the beginning of this podcast where that's what I'm basically talking about, is we need people in charge. We got to have rules. It's just there's no ands, ifs, or buts.
Yeah.
There's a case I was reading about yesterday. It was an article from middle of May about a 2023 kid, so a high school junior, who has agreed to a deal that is estimated to be worth about $8 million, starting with a $350,000 bonus and yearly payments accelerating into the years that he's actually at the school, without a real commitment legally, contractually, because they can't. It's kind of a wink, wink, nod, nod thing about whether he's actually going to go to that school.
And we're not allowing pay for play, because that is pay for play. And what Coach Saban referenced with Miami basketball, that's pretty much pay for play. And then on the flip side, you have Isaiah Wong hearing about it and saying, well, then I want that much, and basically becoming the first verbal holdout of this new era that we've entered into. And Randy, I've always enjoyed like the analogy of like guide rails, bumper bowling, so your kid doesn't end up in the gutter. I think what we need real soon, and I know our friend Aaron Taylor has alluded to this as well, we need the gigantic haystacks and the runaway truck ramps at this point, right? We need something to just go, whoa, like stop. Yeah.
The game needs about 4 feet of gravel on an incline to slow it down.
Gravel humps, not the haystacks. What am I talking about? I was just out in the country. That's what I was. The haystack's not going to stop the truck, man.
Woo! To slow it down a little bit.
No, it's just a little too much.
It's bizarro world. It really is. I played in the College Football Hall of Fame golf tournament down here in Atlanta last Monday, so I got a chance to talk to some of those folks. And it's crazy how many of them were just, one of those, you wouldn't believe the stories I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I trust me, I can believe it. But it is crazy. I mean, even the commissioners. That's why everyone, when Nick and Jimbo did what they did, Adam, there were people that said, well, what's Greg Sankey going to do?
Yeah. Well,
come on, let's be real. What can Greg Sankey do?
Genie's out of the bottle.
Yeah.
Genie's out of the bottle. And that's a tough role for him to be in. Amazingly, though, what we got was an apology out of Coach Saban and not more venom in response. So I credit Commissioner Sankey on that one. But the genie's out of the bottle, and we've basically said, have at it. And the schools with the biggest boosters and the richest boosters and the most organized fronts can go to town. I mean, everything that happened at SMU is now pretty much is basically above board if you make an appearance at the car dealership, I guess. And
well, so speaking of which, same number of letters in the school name, an acronym, USC, the same day as the Nick Saban thing.
Perfect time to announce it.
Jordan Addison announces he's transferring to USC. They didn't put the details of the NIL deal in there because it was very purely for football and altruistic reasons. He left. But Pat Narduzzi is not a happy man right now.
And he has reason to not be happy. And Pitt's one of those schools where you think they could maybe answer the call. And I know this overlaps into the transfer portal. And more importantly than the portal, Randy, is the 1 year waiting period. That's gone. And we can agree that it should be gone, that everyone else in the world can transfer schools and get right after it. So, the whole thing with the transfer portal and not sitting out was supposed to benefit the kids who weren't getting the right look, weren't getting the playing time, had some sort of personal reason to leave or go home closer to home. And from what we can tell, this was not that, right? This was with NIL supporting him, going to a more established program. And Lincoln Riley is masterful at this kind of stuff. And maybe he makes USC at least back into something. Maybe he makes them first into Oklahoma of the Pac-12, and then maybe USC is as we all remember it, just from Reggie Bush years and before that, and going back to your days. So sleeping giant for sure. Does he want to team up with its new quarterback, offensive coordinator, all these other things? But yeah, that's one of those where we talk about unintended consequences of a rule to try to help people, and sure, you get basically free agency.
Well, with that kind of news, but also what's kind of going on in the Pac-12 in general, do you think we're seeing a little bit of a revitalization of the football out there? I mean, Oregon's been good. SC's been UCLA's been I mean, it's just Utah. Are we going to start seeing a Pac-12 conference that will legitimately be a contender? Because they've almost been an afterthought. And the sad thing is, until they start playing 9 a.m. games on the West Coast, they're going to probably stay that way because they just can't get the attention later in the day.
Yeah, there's the attention issue, but it's not that long ago. Christian McCaffrey was at Stanford and they were exciting, and Washington was knocking on the playoff door. Oregon, like you said. The biggest reason I have belief that they are due to rise is that so many of these star players on the skill side are coming from the West Coast, and they're just going to Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia. They're going to these schools. So what do? Well, maybe the boosters at these schools need the Coach Saban speech and say, hey, get your act together and let's try to retain the regional or local stars and get them to come to these schools. But the name brands are there. I mean, the hardest part to me in rising up in this college football world is that there's only a handful of these, elite name brands. And the Pac-12 has Oregon. I mean, I know Stanford historically wasn't it, but when you had Andrew Luck, when you had, big impactful stretches of time where you were among the elite or you played games that shaped the national championship picture, and then, of course, USC and UCLA. I would think, Arizona State's had great moments. A lot of these are big name schools that are due to rise up if they can keep the kids local and above board do what it takes to keep them around. So yeah, I would, and Utah's been close also. So I think they're due for it. I like the new commissioner. What I've heard often though times is that the student body at some of these schools just doesn't care the way they do in the SEC, in the Big 10, Big 12, and some ACC schools, maybe that care isn't there either.
Yeah. Well, being a West Coast guy, I can tell you that's not false. I know we all the time with Aaron. I mean, when I moved in '92, I moved to the Atlanta area from the Bay Area, and it didn't take me long to figure out. I thought I played a sport. I didn't know I played a religion. But when I got down here in the South, I was like, oh my God, they take this game seriously. And it's nothing like that on the West Coast. And people say, well, there's so much to do. Well, there's a lot to do here.
Yeah.
It's just, it's looked at differently. It really, truly is.
Yeah, maybe even looked down upon in a lot of ways. And I know part of the issue is that, some of the Cal schools, some of the UC schools, you have a lot of students from outside the area. So they're not going to naturally care about the school's football team to begin with. Whereas again, Big 10, SEC, you have a lot of these kids are from their home state and they're rooting for that school to begin with. They might've started rooting. There's kids from New Jersey who start rooting for Alabama as kids, fair weather kids, I guess, but they're New Jersey kids and they see him on CBS and then they see him in the CFP. And it's like, ooh, I could go down there and be a part of this in my own student kind of way, and they're choosing to go there. They're not going out west. There is a lack of, rabidness, whatever the word you would use that
rabid, the rabid fans are lacking. Yes. Yes. Hey, speaking of rabid fans, what's new and exciting in your disc golf world?
You know what? There's a lot going on at the pro level, and it's really exciting. I kick back. One of the best things I ever figured out how to do, Randy, because I'm a dinosaur with the technology. I'm the guy that you need to send the Zoom link to. I can't create one. I'm one of those guys. Best thing I ever figured out was how to send the thing I'm watching to my TV. I think they call it bouncing it or something. I can kick back and actually watch disc golf rounds on my TV. I can watch the Pro Tour now because there's a streaming network. So there's big stuff going on there, and there's like tons of just elite players. Ricky Wysocki's got his new deal and trying to combat the after effects of Lyme disease and still finishing top 5 and stuff. But I just had a couple of local events. My local municipal golf course has let me do a thing annually, and now we're going to do it monthly, where we put the baskets out there and people can come and play. And I did a fundraiser with Dynamic Discs helping me out. But we did there's a zoo that everybody loves around here called the Turtleback Zoo. It's located in South Mountain Reservation, like a nature reserve. And there's this hillside, and we set up, I designed a 9-hole course, and we had over 200 people show up and give $20 over to the zoo. They got a disc that said the Turtleback Glide on it with a turtle on it. I wish I had one with me here. I usually have them like in my pockets. Anyway, it was very exciting. It's scratching a big itch for me. I actually just walked the grounds by my high school and middle school yesterday with a friend on the rec board in my hometown to look at possibly doing something that really the gym classes could use more than anybody. The kids could use it. It's just a great way to walk around outside and just get your steps in, throw something far if you can, and get some air. So it's good. It's been a lot of fun, and luckily one of my kids likes playing it with me. So that's been a nice way to spend some time.
Hey, before we started recording this, I asked you about a comedian, Bert Kreischer.
Yeah.
Who was on Joe Rogan's podcast and had mentioned something about $1 million disc golf tournament.
Wow.
How excited would that community be if that was actually true?
Before the tour started having the bigger purses, some of the biggest money around was these skins matches that they would hold the day after an event. They'd keep a few people around and do a skins match. televise it or record it, put it on YouTube or whatever, and give away some serious money that really helps these people live. So $1 million would be amazing. I would like to be there for that. I actually saw, I didn't see that clip. Someone sent me the clip of him talking about how he likes to collect a certain disc called the Wraith that another company, Innova, makes. And I actually have one that's signed by the guys who were the final card in the I think it was 2005 or 2006 at Augusta, the World Championship. So that was like the commemorative disc, and I got it signed by those guys. So if he wants to give me $1 million for that, then, or even like 1%, I'll take it. So that's cool.
The Wraith. That sounds like a bad guy from a Star Wars movie. You know, a Sith Lord.
Yeah, well, they're running out of names for these things now. There's over 15. Someone posted that there's now 1,500 discs that have been designed all time, that have been approved by the PDGA. To which my response was, then why do I have 5,000 in my garage? Because you need a backup to the backup. You got the special stamp, the fundraisers, and all the different things. So we all have to hoard something, and it's not just CDs for me, apparently. So. By the way, to my college friends who made fun of me and told me, just put these on an iPod, the iPod's not going to be supported anymore, and I still have my CD player. So
how much of that stuff on that wall back there behind you is fish? About half?
You know what? I actually, to bring it all together, I had a disc with the fish, with the Run Like the Antelope street sign on it. There's like a good 4 horizontal rows that are fish, and then a bunch that are Grateful Dead, String Cheese Incident, and then a really good mix of stuff too. But a lot of my fish isn't on that wall. A lot of it's whatchamacallit, you know, it is digital. So
in use. Yeah.
It's on that phone thing I can't use. But no, man, I don't know. I had some posters. They're not up here anymore. There was a little bit of a remodel during the Zoom era that we're in for this room of Adam's souvenirs. But I did throw the set piece from our Final Four appearance from 2012 up there for my NCAA tournament related business from in here.
Yeah, well, your room looked different. Let's face it, when people outside your house weren't seeing it on a regular basis. As soon as they were, there's a certain person that probably lives in your house, like kind of like my house, that decided, no, that's not going to work.
You know what? I'll show you something that no one else gets to see. There's some other things we keep in here. I always sit blocking it, but our kids pretend it's a horse head on a stick, not a real horse head, but you know, the little thing that the kids would walk around like they're riding a horse.
Used to ride a horse, yeah.
You know what? That was back there a couple years ago. I'd thrown it back there and thought, you know, that's a good spot for it. Never thought it'd be on camera. And then I think before my first Zoom hit, someone said, you know, you got this like toy sticking out over your shoulder. It was like sitting there like this. So I said, okay, I'll sit like this. And now I can do TV from this, what was our guest room, our storage room, whatever you, home office. That's it. Home office.
Yeah, that's the ticket.
Yours is
all right, Adam. Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Great to
Be
see
well,
you.
And can't wait till we get back going here in another month or so.
Well, yeah, call it 3 months.
Yeah, 3 months for that. But we've got the SEC meetings, and then we've got the PR stuff in Birmingham. There's all kinds of stuff.
All kinds of stuff. I'm just trying to stretch it out.
There you go. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
You bet.
All right.
Be well.
Bye-bye. Well, thank you to Adam. That was a lot of fun. And hey, disc golf, check it out now. Because disc golf, it looks like fun. I'm not sure I'm quite ready for it yet. You know, I was never a big Frisbee guy. So, and that's a surefire way to piss off a disc golfer is call it a Frisbee. But it's growing, and as Adam was talking about, they're putting courses in all over. And it's an up-and-coming sport, and Adam's got some great thoughts on the world of college sports, doesn't he? All right, let's move along, and right now, go to Randy Eats.
It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried, just eat it. Just eat it. Just eat it.
Now for Randy Eats. same kind of grouping, if you will. We're going to have some burgers. We're going to have some chicken. And we're going to have a little brisket. Okay, let's get this thing going. We'll start with the burgers. Now, it's hard not to like these burgers. I actually had sent Andrew Doyle, our producer and director, this one picture or video of an In-N-Out burger. They actually sold 100 patty In-N-Out burger. You got to go ahead and go on Instagram and find it. It's pretty impressive. But then you got your burger with egg and cheese and bacon and everything else, which is killer. Then you got the next one that's got more bacon but more onions and more burgers and also a little bit more cheese. I made what is called spatchcock chicken, where you basically take the backbone and the tail out of the bird and you lay it out flat. I did that the other day. And we've got it in the uncooked, just being put on the grill stage, the getting towards the end stage, and then we got a picture at the end on the tray getting to the come on and get me stage. I love that stuff. I really do. And the other thing is one of my all-time favorites. It's kind of the holy grail when it comes to smokers and barbecues and whatnot that people love to cook, are briskets. And I did a big 12-pound brisket a week or so ago that I fed to the family. And they absolutely loved it. And I love to share stuff like that whenever I do it. So, as of right now, that's Randy Eats.
It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried, just eat it. Just eat it. Just eat it.
I want to thank you all for joining us and remind you where you find this podcast. You can get it at all kinds of social media platforms all over. You can get it more, not preferably, but easily at randycross.com. And you can forward it from there. You can do everything from there. But, go to YouTube, go to Twitter, go to Facebook, go to Instagram. It's there. Go to Spotify, go to all the audio formats. Podcast is there. Enjoy it. Like it. Subscribe to it. And like I said earlier, forward it to your friends. Who knows? They might like it. All right? We always end this podcast with what we call Happy Trails. But this is a little bit different version of Happy Trails. It's what we're going to call Summer Fails Happy Trails.